PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar arrives in the U.S. Nigerian Governors Forum agrees to pay new minimum wage on 2 conditions. In international news, U.S. President Trump stops American delegation to the World Economic Forum in Davos. And in sports, Super Falcons lose to China in the first match of a 4-nation tournament.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Contrary to earlier reports that the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar would be arrested on corruption charges if he attempted to enter the United States, he, along with Senate President Bukola Saraki, has arrived in Washington, D.C. with no incident. Atiku's visit was confirmed by his media aide and by photographs and videos that have made the rounds on social media when he arrived there. Earlier, when the story broke, the Nigerian embassy in Washington, D.C. had said it knew and heard nothing about Atiku's visit. Atiku's media aide had also debunked the story on Thursday, saying the former vice president had not left the country. The presidential candidate later posted on Twitter he had arrived in the U.S. and would meet with U.S. government officials, the business community, and with Nigerians living in the Washington, D.C. area. He is also expected to address the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on Friday. Several legal luminaries and senior advocates of Nigeria are challenging the legality of the charges leveled against Nigeria's Chief Justice Walter Onnoghen and his arraignment scheduled for next week. One such legal mind, renowned lawyer Ebonla Onogboruwa, says the 6-count charge against Onnoghen before the Court of Conduct Tribunal is illegal. Onogboruwa says the government is causing anxiety in the polity by taking this step. He has called for restraint. He described the Buhari administration as, quote, a house divided against itself, end quote. He said the administration should not be fighting itself on all fronts. Onogboruwa questioned CCT's jurisdictional attitude, or authority rather, over the case. The Nigeria Governors Forum says it would pay the new 30,000 naira minimum wage if the governors gave 2 conditions: 1, a review of the sharing formula under which they would get more money, or 2, downsize their workforce. It says states would be bankrupt if they accept to pay the new wage without fulfillment of the conditions. As a result, the federal government has begun considering a review of the federal allocation sharing formula. The Tripartite Committee on Minimum Wage had recommended the 30,000 naira figure, while the federal government agreed to pay 24,000 naira and the state government 22,000 naira. The outcome of an emergency National Executive Council meeting on Thursday was to table the matter before the National Economic Council for further deliberations. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has released a final list of presidential candidates for next month's general elections. The list contains party names and their presidential and vice presidential candidates, including the heavyweights, the ruling All Progressives Congress, and opposition People's Democratic Party and their candidates. The list was signed by INEC Secretary Rose Oriarian Anthony and posted on the Commission's Twitter page. Acting Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says the country has recorded more than $200 billion in illicit financial outflows in almost 40 years. Ibrahim Mago said investigations, arrests, prosecution, and asset recoveries over the years confirmed the staggering level of Nigeria's corruption. EFCC's acting chairman made the remarks through a representative who addressed an online Publishers Association conference in Abuja on Thursday. Mago indicted some state governors, ministers, high-ranking military officers, chief executives of parastatals, and top bureaucrats as perpetrators of the national vice. Mago said an African Union panel on illicit financial flows ranked Nigeria #1 most corrupt among 10 African countries between 1970 and 2008, during which period more than $200 billion illegally left the country. Minister of Interior Lieutenant General Abdurrahman Dambazao has said the federal government plans to begin local production of e-passports to conserve foreign exchange and create local jobs. He said the country will soon cease the production of passports outside the country and embark on local production through a private-public partnership. Dambazao said the ministry has been instrumental in setting up the visa on arrival at different international airports in the country to attract and ease the movement of genuine investors. The minister also said his ministry had collaborated with Nigeria Immigration Service to introduce enhancements to the process, one of which was the introduction of harmonized arrival-departure cards that phased out the need for multiple cards from various agencies at the ports. 4 years ago, 8 men were arraigned for armed robbery in Adamawa State when they were sentenced to death by hanging on Thursday in a courtroom in Yola. They attacked some journalists covering the trial. The convicts became extremely agitated and pounced on journalists after their judgment was pronounced. Although they were handcuffed at the time and with prison officials standing by their side, they attacked a journalist from state TV station ATV and another from the Nigerian Television Authority (NTA). Justice Abdulaziz Waziri pronounced the death sentence on the convicts, but said he had 90 days to appeal the judgment. State Controller of Prisons, Mar Aldu, said the convicts were back in prison and were showing remorse for their courtroom outburst. In Delta State, Governor Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa has emerged as Governor of the Year 2018 on Thursday. He was cited for his diligent delivery of democratic dividends and his work to make Nigeria democracy better. As he received the Independent Newspaper Award at a hotel in Lagos, Okowa said his success is a result of years of learning the act of governance and strong partnership with the people of Delta State. Okowa's political experience cuts across local government council as chairman, state government as commissioner of agriculture, and also at another time, commissioner for health and water resources in Delta State. He was also a senator before being elected governor.
Governor Okowa, I present to you the Man of the Year Award for 2017. Congratulations.
Coming up, African stories. Ailing Gabon presidents back in Morocco for medical treatment. And later, President Trump stops American delegation from attending the World Economic Forum. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to some African stories. The Southern African Development Community has changed its mind on Thursday from calling for a recount of DR Congo polls. The entire 16-member bloc echoed that position following an emergency meeting in Addis Ababa attended by heads of state, including South Africa and Angolan president. In the same instance, leaders from Angola, Chad, Congo, Ethiopia, Namibia, South Africa and Uganda attended an emergency meeting in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, about the disputed election in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The gathering comes as DR Congo's Constitutional Court hears a petition from opposition candidate Martin Fayulu, who believes he won and is demanding a manual recount. AU Chairperson Musa Faki Mahamat says serious doubt remains over the results of last month's election in the country. As a result, the continental body has issued a surprise last-minute demand late on Thursday for DR Congo's government to suspend the announcement of final poll results. The AU statesman said heads of state and governments have agreed to urgently dispatch a high-level delegation to Congo to find a way out of the post-election crisis. The Qatari government has supplied at least 68 armored vehicles to security forces in Somalia to help in the fight against Al-Shabaab. Somali Defense Minister Hassan Ali Mohammed and the Chief of Somali Defense Forces officially received the vehicles in Mogadishu. Qatar is believed to be one of the main supporters of the Somali government. Qatari military officials had recently met with the Chief of Somali Defense Forces in Mogadishu. President of Gabon, Ali Bongo, who returned to his country briefly this week, has gone back to Morocco to continue his medical treatment. Bongo appeared in a wheelchair on state TV during inauguration after a failed attempt by soldiers to hijack his government. Since Bongo fell ill in Saudi Arabia in October when he allegedly suffered a stroke, contradictory information on the state of his health and an extended medical leave in Morocco has fueled instability back in his country, Gabon. In an apparent effort to shore up his political base after a failed coup attempt, Bongo flew back to Gabon on Monday to swear in a new government. It was not clear if he could work or move his right arm. Ethiopian parliament has ratified a bill that gives refugees more rights, including access to primary and secondary schools, as long as they are recognized by the government. The bill grants refugees the freedom to move out of camps and also the rights to work in jobs allowed for foreign nationals. Ethiopia hosts close to 1 million refugees from neighboring countries, in addition to its own 2 million internally displaced persons. The bill is expected to pave the way for the country's intentions to employ refugees in industrial parks. Some lawmakers in the parliament have expressed concern that refugees might end up taking jobs meant for unemployed Ethiopians. Zimbabwe's biggest mobile operator, Econet Wireless, said on Friday it has been ordered again to shut down internet in the country until further notice, following days of deadly protest over steep fuel price hikes. The internet was cut off earlier this week, with critics saying the government sought to prevent from being broadcast around the world images of its heavy-handedness in dealing with protesters. The U.S. has expressed concern over the issue, asking the governments to restore internet access. But Econet said in a statement it had been served with another directive for total shutdown until further notice. It says it will comply with the directive pending the court's decision on its legality. Burundi Parliament has voted this week to move the country's capital from Bujumbura back to the Asian capital of Gitega, but says Bujumbura will remain the economic capital. The first to move will be the upper house of parliament, the Senate. President Pierre Nkurunziza, who has to sign off the change, promised in 2007 to move the capital, saying Gitega was geographically more centrally placed in Burundi. Others have criticized the move, saying it could be linked to Bujumbura increasingly an opposition stronghold and could lead to continued clashes between protesters and police. The parliament's leader said the move to the new capital would take place over 3 years. When we return, international stories. President Trump stops American delegation from attending the World Economic Forum. And latest sports. Super Falcons lose to China in the first match of a 4-nation tournament.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand, that's my last phone.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. And foreign news, President Donald Trump has cancelled the American delegation's trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, as a result of the ongoing partial government shutdown. Trump says he cancelled the trip out of consideration for the 800,000 American government workers who are not getting paid at the moment, and to ensure his team can assist as needed. Earlier this week, the White House said it had planned to send Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, and Chris Ludeau, Assistant to the President and Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Coordination. The annual conference in Switzerland gathers world leaders and business executives. A White House official says all congressional delegations overseas that would have used federally funded military aircraft have been grounded by Trump until the showdown ends. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's military aircraft was grounded by Trump 2 days ago as she was to begin an overseas trip to visit American military personnel, 7 in Afghanistan and other locations. The government's partial shutdown is the longest in American history at 28 days old. North Korea's top envoy Kim Yong-chol has arrived in Washington, D.C. to lay the groundwork for a second summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Neither the United States nor North Korea had arrived or announced any meeting, but Kim is expected to hold talks with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Friday. Trump has spoken several times about having a second summit with Kim early this year and has exchanged multiple letters with the North Korean leader, despite little tangible progress on a vague denuclearization agreements reached at their meeting in Singapore last June. Since then, several private analysts have published reports detailing continuing North Korean nuclear and missile technology developments. Facebook has removed hundreds of pages it said posts as an independent news site in Eastern Europe and elsewhere, but were actually run by employees at Russian state-owned news agency Sputnik. This is the latest in a series of actions taken by the social media giant against Russia's disinformation machinery. Last February, Special Counsel Robert Mueller indicted a Russian troll for conspiracy to defraud the United States. The group had posted Americans on Facebook. The company said the 364 pages and accounts removed on Thursday had almost 800,000 followers and had spent around $135,000 on ads on the platform between October 2013 and this month. The countries targeted including Romania, Latvia, Estonia, Georgia, and Moldova. The pages frequently promoted anti-NATO sentiments and protest movements. Facebook says the pages used false identities to help them appear authentic. Colombia officials say 11 persons were killed and 65 others were injured after a car bomb detonated in the capital, Bogota. A high-ranking police official disclosed that the explosion appeared to be the result of a suicide attack. Police said the driver rammed the vehicle into the grounds of a police academy at full speed and ignored calls to stop. The driver is presumed to have died in the blast, but it's unclear if authorities are counting the attacker in the death toll. President Ivan Duque has condemned the attack as terrorism and vowed to bring the perpetrators to justice. He has also declared a 3-day mourning period. A regional economic summit Lebanon is preparing to host this weekend has been overshadowed by divisions over Syria's future and efforts to contain Iran. Many heads of state will now say they will stay away. The emirs of Qatar and Kuwait will not attend. Egypt is planning to send the prime minister rather than the president, while the Palestinian Authority president has said he will be in New York. The snub seems to be a message to Iran, whose allies, including Hezbollah, hold power in Lebanon and support the Syrian government. Iran's allies saw the talks as an opportunity to bring Syrian President Bashar al-Assad back into the Arab fold. They were hoping an Arab League foreign minister level meeting before the summit would provide a chance to hold a vote on Syria's reinstatement to the regional body. The Arab League suspended Syria's membership in 2011 and imposed economic sanctions over its violent crackdown on anti-government protesters before the country descended into civil war. Some countries withdrew their ambassadors. Still ahead, sports. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, the Super Falcons lost to the Steel Roses of China on Thursday in a four-nation invitational football tournament in China. Nigeria will face Romania for a third-place spot, while China will battle South Korea in the finals. Both matches will come up on Sunday. The tournament is part of the Falcons tune-up for this June's FIFA Women's World Cup in France. An investigative journalist who exposed Ghana's soccer corruption has been shot dead by two gunmen. Reports say Ahmed Hussein Swale was near his home Wednesday in the Accra suburb of Medina when two men on a motorbike pulled up next to his car and shot him at close range. The journalist died instantly after being shot twice in the chest and in the neck. Hussein Swale worked for the Tiger Eye Pie organization run by investigative journalist Anas Saramea Anas. Tiger Eye Pie said Hussein Swale had received death threats after recently finishing work in a documentary that exposed bribery and corruption in African soccer. The documentary led to the resignation of the head of the Ghana Football Association. So unfortunate. And that is the ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Enjoy your weekend.